Alrighty, we're back for part 2 of our coverage of the Trimet Puppets meeting, also known as Portland Elites running your transit system without any input from you. We know better than you. We are elites and you are not. You're going to do what we tell you, and that's the way it is. And don't bother giving us any ideas because we already know what we're going to do. And it doesn't involve you citizens. So let's keep moving along with the elite report.
First to the Committee on Accessible Transportation, Director Bauman. Can you please give us your report?
Yes, good morning.
It turns out that they made that other, the three white establishment people, Warner, Bauman, and the one that, what the hell's her name? I've already, Simmons. I thought the Bauman was going to be the actual chairman because she's the vice chairman right now. We haven't got to the point in the meeting where they make Simmons the president, but they're the establishment white members. All three of them are pro-police states. Pro-police state. Well, all the board is pro-police state. They talk like they don't. They're like Congress, They'll all talk good, but when the vote comes, it always passes by one vote. And they're like, oh, well, sorry, we tried. It's the same story. Every level of government operates the same way. Unfortunate, but true.
Everyone, the Committee on Accessible Transportation met last week on May 19th, and here was a very quick report. A theme that emerged from the meeting is that we are emerging from the pandemic.
Pandemic
is meaning the good news. It means more.
The global elite the pandemic, which made the global elites insanely rich, threw millions into abject poverty, destabilized the world. So yeah, okay. Remember what actually happened here. Yeah, it killed a lot of people. And the capitalists took every advantage of this to make themselves rich and destabilize millions of lives. So the truth is the truth.
Use of paratransit and also more traffic on our streets. And here are a couple of reports that reflect that. There was a report actually from Kathy Whitman on fixed route service. She did mention that on-time performance has been operating at a very high level, 93% for the last 30 days. But fixed route is being impacted by the fact that traffic is picking up in the city, and that is having an impact on on-time performance. We heard a report from Dan Bauer of the Portland Streetcar. He said they've restored full service and ridership is picking up. And he asked everyone to note on their calendar that the Portland Streetcar 20th anniversary there'll be a celebration at Jameson Park in the Pearl District on July 18th for the streetcar 20th anniversary. We heard from Steve Hex of Broadway Cab, who supplies paratransit services, and he said that again they've got a shortage of drivers, and they're finding that their demand for paratransit is increasing. Similarly, we heard a report from First Transit. They are also recruiting new drivers, and they see an increase in Lyft service. Likewise, we heard from Eileen Collins, Lyft customer service and operations, and she said that they are recruiting reservationists in the dispatch office, and that includes individuals with Spanish language proficiency. So this is all great news as we're seeing more folks getting out in the community, especially including paratransit riders. And that is the end of the report.
Yippee.
Thank you, Director Bauman. Are there any questions or comments for Director Bauman?
There's Ozzy doing his other work. Oh, look.
Seeing no one raise their hand or comment, so I'm going to go right on to the Finance and Audit Committee and a report from Director Simmons.
Oh, here she is.
Yes, good morning. This morning, right before the board meeting, the Finance and Audit Committee met, not Finance and Audit, I guess maybe it's that. Anyway, we had 3 topics we covered today. The Moss Adams pre-audit meeting, the Red Line financial update, and a budget and finance update. And having to do with the audit has started. It began in May, and it will conclude in September. And the auditor's role is to place an opinion on our financial statements.
Yeah, we always know how that
So
goes
they've
down.
begun their work and will be kept up to date along the way if there are any findings that need to be brought to our attention. The Red Line financial update, you're going to receive that in the briefing following the board meeting today, so I won't go into any of that, but the Red Line has to do with the double tracking to Hillsborough and Gateway Center and to the airport, and we'll have a briefing on that later. And then we did get a budget and finance update that looked at changes that have been necessary from the proposed to the adopted budget for
Really?
FY22.
They're taking your money
having
and
to do
they'll
with,
make all the decisions
the
for
union
you.
contract being settled and a number of other things. And I'm sure that is covered in terms of the financial information that we've received in the board packet. So that concludes my report. It was a brief meeting. We adjourned early, which is unusual. And I welcome any comments. Lori also was there, and so was Bruce. If you have any feedback that you'd like to add to my remarks, feel free to do so.
Hello? Yes, I'm good.
This is Bruce. I have nothing to add. Are there other comments or questions from the board?
Not
For Director
right
Simmons?
now, no. Maybe later.
I'm not seeing any, so let's move on then to the third report, which is the Metro Policy Advisory
I
Committee,
will, but not.
MPAC, which is Director Way.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. So MPAC met on Wednesday, April 28th last month, and there were 2 major areas of presentation. The first one is regarding...
Sorry, that was Mom's best friend. So I had to take that call real quick. They want me to come over, and I'm like, I'm not vaccinated. I can't come over. It's the other reason I won't get the vaccine, so I can have a built-in excuse to not do anything.
Regarding the regional mobility policy update. Now this effort is a part of the multi-year policy update with Metro and to really modernize the mobility policy to more accurately reflect all travel modes, including those that are driving, riding transit, walking, and biking. This policy update can help move the state and region towards more comprehensively counting people traveling by all modes and not just vehicles. The project team has arrived at 12 of the most promising performance measures for future testing in the summer ahead, and they will report back soon with those results. And if you're curious, those 12 measures selected were multimodal level of service, level of traffic stress, pedestrian crossing index, system completeness, speed, accessibility to destinations, hours of congestion, duration of congestion, travel time reliability, vehicle miles traveled per capita, travel time, volume to capacity ratio for road length, and volume to capacity ratio at intersections. I know that was a lot, but it was a great update to hear that that was a broad overview of the 12 measures that were selected. Secondly, there was a recap on an update on the Parks and Nature Bond. If folks recall, 2019 voters invested for $475 million to protect fish and wildlife, improve water quality, and allow people to access nature. And the bond has goals of advancing racial equity, preparing for climate change, and basing decisions on meaningful engagement. There were a variety of programs that this bond funded, and up to date, the progress is that Metro has included safety and accessibility at all of their sites. There has been a creation of an oversight committee and the launch of a local share program and also partner and stakeholder engagement. And our next meeting is this evening. And that concludes the report.
Thank you, Director
Any-
Wade.
Yeah,
Any questions?
I've got a question, President Warner. Thank you. Director White, thank you for that report. I appreciate you sharing the overview on those performance measures. I'm curious about what role the community has had in helping inform those measures up to this point. And to what extent have they helped shape this process?
Yeah, that's a great question, Director Gonzalez. I'm not the expert on the regional mobility policy work. I think that like with Metro and it was.
No, I think people like Ozzy and Kathy and probably that black guy, what's his name, Keith. I think they mean well, but they can't. They're not in a position to affect any kind of change because they're sock puppets. They don't. All the information they get is from the executive. Trimet is owned by the executive class. Okay, the executive class owns Trimet, and they decide where all the money goes and what happens. They run it by the board, and the board routinely rubber stamps whatever the general manager wants. I remember no time, and I've been watching this shit for 20 years. I remember no time where the board actually went against the general manager. There were instances where one board member would be dissenting, but that didn't, so what? It still passes. But there's never been an instance where the board went against the general manager. And probably never in the history of Trimet has there been an instance where the board went against the general manager. I mean, the entire the Portland area government is all run by the same people for decades. It's become a real cronyism structure over there, as bad as Boston. I mean, and Boston's really corrupt, but at least there's a little bit more. In this state, things have advanced since I've been back here now. It's a little bit more advanced here than when I was growing up here in terms of the cronyism. Things aren't quite that bad. I mean, it's still corrupt, but all of government is corrupt. I already know that. There is no good government. Everybody in government is in it for themselves. Nobody's in it to help the public. It's all about themselves. And I think people mean well, but the system, you can't do well. It's just the system itself corrupts everybody involved with it.
Sort of just a general update to impact members. So I know that oftentimes Jeffrey Owen has been our Trimet staffer, and we have great relationships with Metro staff on their policy updates. So I would not the expert to answer that particular question, and so I think I would direct it to staff at Metro or our Trimet liaison, Jeffrey, to follow up on that. I hope it's okay.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Other questions or comments for Director Wade? I'm hearing none, so let's go on to the Transit Equity Advisory Committee. Director Gonzalez.
Thank you, President Warner. The Transit Equity Advisory Committee met in this past month, and there was a few service. It began with service updates. The staff shared some general Trimet service updates and some news. Took a first look at the bus wrap that was rolled out, literally celebrating Asian and Pacific Islander History Month. And it was honoring a lot of local Asian American and Pacific Islanders who have been trailblazers in the Northwest, both past and existing leaders. And so if the public hasn't already seen it, the bus that has this wrap features images of Bill Nato, Lung On, Brace Lee Boggs, Minoru Yasui, Kan Pham, Valerie Otani, and Anjali Hirsch. So that's a really exciting thing that was unveiled at the
This is called virtue signaling. I guess it's okay. I'm not against it, but I want more buses and trains. I don't want this nonsense. I want the bus capacity brought back to 100%, and I want enough drivers on the staff to do the fills when necessary. All the rest of this shit is just distraction, okay? Nice you have Asian Pacific, whatever, bus wrap. That's nice, very nice. But it doesn't actually do anything, okay? It's just like this advertising gimmick.
TIAC meeting. And then I was able to provide the group a general manager committee search update. So
what is a search
caught them
update?
up on all the activities happening in the GM search
Let's
process,
hear it.
which you and the board will be hearing about in just a sec from our committee chair. And I was able to answer questions and get some input from members of the TIAC committee, including committee members such as Bus Riders Unite and Opal, who are active participants. And so that was a great opportunity to just kind of lay out what's been happening and discuss next steps. And then the staff provided an overview on Trimet's new partnership with Oregon Health Authority to provide free fares to the community in order to help people get to their vaccine appointments.
Oh, that's vaccine.
So if
when did
folks
they do
have
that?
not already heard of that, that's a program that's already in place.
Yeah, but you have to get through these gimmicks. You have to get it through an existing agency. You can't just walk on and say I'm going to a vaccine or something.
The group had a discussion on how to get the word out to additional community benefits organizations and other community groups that can help distribute the fares. So far, the initiative has connected with over 50 community organizations and provided over 20,000 free day passes as of yesterday. So that program is really picking up. And if anybody in the public has not already heard about that, yes, you can go to the Trimet website for information, but there's a number you can text and get information on getting that pass. And then Jennifer Kuzer from the Transit Equity, Inclusion, and Community Affairs Department provided TIAC an update on all of Trimet's efforts to move towards the zero emissions bus fleet. She shared information about the milestones, the plans that are in place to test long-range battery electric buses, as well as looking at hydrogen bus feed.
Another distraction, another useless distraction. We need service on the ground. We don't need electric buses right now. This is something, the electric buses fleets are not going to change the atmosphere. Now, when I was living on 23rd Avenue in Portland, I would have loved an electric bus outside of my window instead of those fucking diesels. I was right on 23rd. But these are things right now that I don't know why they're focusing on this stuff when they're not even at running full service, but yet they're talking about changing the fleet. This is your typical government distraction.
Feasibility studies.
Plus they're going to spend all this extra money on it when this money should be going into service. It's just, I don't know, man.
Trimet is also pursuing through a grant. The goal is to have some updated recommendations on potential fuel types by 2022 to inform future bus purchases and to help inform the kinds of infrastructure and facilities that we must develop, as well as the training that we must put in place to keep on track towards our zero emissions bus fleet goal. Good participation, and we were able to actually add another member to the TIAC committee. We formally welcomed the Urban League of Portland as a new member to TIAC. So we were thrilled to have them on board, and it's a good engagement happening at that level. Thank you. That concludes my report. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Very thorough report. Any questions or comments by the board?
The board.
I'm hearing none. Well, let's go on to the last board report then, which is the update on the General Manager Search Committee update. And also, I think you're going to give us some information about the Milliman market survey that we had done to see where we were in terms of salary and benefits for the general manager position. So, Director Baumann, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you. All right. I first want to address some of the comments we heard in the public forum about input from transit advocates.
There's one in the
As
back,
the board
some in the
knows,
back there,
and as the community knows,
I think.
since February, we've been collecting input from the community, including OPAL and BRU and other organizations, on the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we should be looking for in a general manager. And we've been really gratified at the level of community interest we've had in giving us that input. We have the next part of the process that's going to be coming up in June will be interviewing the finalists for the position. And as our commenters alluded to, we have appointed a community panel to assist the board and kind of provide input to the board on those finalists. I want to mention that the Getting There Together Coalition is indeed represented on the community panel. The organizations APANO, Climate Solutions, and the Coalition of Communities of Color are all represented on the community panel, and all three of those organizations are part of the Getting There Together Coalition.
Yeah, but there's no representative for the employees, and apparently Opal's not there. The two most important groups, the employees and Opal, are not on your stupid Getting There Together. Or are they? Let me check that. I better check that.
I want to mention in addition that the community panel includes representatives of the CAT committee, which is Trimet's committee with advocates for seniors and people with disabilities, the TIAC committee, and the crash committee, crash committee.
All right, Opal is on there. Let's see. Come on. Opal is on there. I mean, look, they all have nice little, they all have their little logos. God damn it. But I don't see ATU 757 on here, which is an insult to your employees. That's an insult to your employees that they're not on there.
Committee are all represented on the community panel. So that is 6 seats out of the 12 that at a minimum that have include transit advocates. So we feel that we've really got a good broad cross-section of the community, including business community activists, folks with interests in kind of the betterment of our community through transit. I'll step back to what the board is doing right now. We are the search committee, which consists of me, Director Gonzalez, and Director Simmons. We are actively reviewing applications. We've been talking to some of the applicants, and we are preparing to bring a group of finalists to the board and to the community panel in June. As the board members know, we're aiming for full-day interviews June 7th, board deliberations June 14th, and a decision on that date. So that is the timeline. I am going to now hand it over to Kim Sewell, our Director of HR and Labor Relations, and she is going to introduce a market survey that we've conducted on the issue of general manager compensation.
Yep.
Thank you, Director Baumann, and good morning, Board of Directors. As Director Baumann mentioned, as part of this GM recruitment process, we have engaged a consulting firm to provide a market survey and compensation study. That's a standard practice that we...
So they did another goddamn contract. I mean, they just have money coming out of there. We hired an outside firm to do a survey for us. They're just rolling in dough over there, but they have not restored their service.
Agent as part of our compensation program, and the last one we did was approximately 3 years ago. We use Milliman for these services. Milliman is a Northwest consulting group that specializes in the design of compensation programs and survey management. And the specialist that we use is Greg McNutt. He has, I believe, over 25 years, maybe even more than that, of executive compensation specialist services. And he performed our last study that we did in 2018. So without further ado, I will turn that over to Mr. McNutt for an update.
Thank you, Kim, and good morning, members of the board. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to run you through just a short presentation, a PowerPoint that displays what we did for the request, our methodology, and our observations and findings. So I'm not a technical specialist, but I am going to try to
Fine, can I have this?
get this going here.
Now, what is this total? Oh, here we go. Total compensation. Here we go. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're gonna want to give the guy more money. Oh my God.
Second.
Come on, Greg McNutt. Get your nut or fork. Fork. Here, take that.
Greg, I believe you can just click the From Beginning button and it will full screen.
Millman, not Millman again. What is this? Oh my God.
Now you should see my, are we seeing
Yes.
this okay? Okay, thank you. So like Kim said, we were asked a couple of months ago to do the compensation study for the general manager. And what we did is we took a look at, in terms of methodology, we looked at the total compensation.
This is such bullshit, man. This is just such bullshit. These studies are such bullshit. You have the elites figuring out ways to give themselves more money. And they look at other places. It's all run by the elites, and the elites keep giving themselves higher salaries. And then they say, well, they're higher. You know, it's all just a farce. It's a farce. This is a good example of how our elites operate and how they screw us daily.
Of the general manager, not just salary, but we included in total compensation salary.
They're making it sound like these people are some kind of actual worth $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. They're not worth shit. They're just insiders.
Medical and dental retirements and tier 3 retirement benefits, because presumably the next candidate will not be afforded the ability to be in tier 1 or tier 2 retirement benefits. So that's how we put together our definition of total compensation. Now I want to reiterate that the district does have a compensation philosophy, and it's to provide total compensation that is competitive with the market average. So we analyze what the market pays.
There is no market. There's no fucking market. It's a fake market, man. The market. Whenever you hear the word the market, that's a lie. They're using that to lie to you.
Pays from a lower end to a higher end. And the intent is to position total compensation at or close to market average. So for this particular philosophy that the district has, they want to be at least at or above the market average, depending on the individual, what skills and contribution he or she brings to the position. So it's important to recognize that for different organizations, we have what we call a labor market. The types of organizations that the district would recruit from or potentially lose talent to. And so consistent with the last survey, we define the labor market as a portion of two different areas. One is just transit organizations in the West Coast 11. So we conducted a custom survey where we went to those particular organizations, those peers, and collected the market data for which we're analyzing total compensation. Secondly, Millman has a series of different...
This is such bullshit. Why don't you just tell us what you want to pay him $500,000, right? You think you're going to get some talented person for $500,000. That's all bullshit. You're going to get some fucking hack who's good at lying.
Published salary surveys that reports from numerous organizations. And what we did with that, in that case, is we looked at data from local Northwest public organizations that are of the similar size and responsibility. So basically, we had two different ideas of what the labor market would constitute for you. And again, consistent with that, two different looks at the market. We looked at two different methods of analyzing the market data. In the first case, the first method, we took a balanced approach of 50-50. So we weighted the data equally between the transit organizations.
Can you believe the bullshit they're throwing at us here? I can't believe the bullshit they're throwing at us here. What did Kelsey make? Give the guy what Kelsey made. You know what? They don't like 300,000 a year, then tell them to fucking take a hike. This is such bullshit. This is them justifying stealing your tax money is what this is. Look at this.
And the published survey data from the Northwest public organizations. And secondly, the second method, we took a weighting that heavily emphasized the group of transit organizations and the West Coast 11. So it was a 90-10 weight. And that particular thinking was that, you know, as a transit agency, we wanted to heavily compare yourself to very similar types of organizations. And again, that was consistent with the last study 3 years ago. So after we went through those types of methodologies, the 50-50 and the 90-10, we found some findings that weren't so dissimilar from the last time. Total compensation, when we add it all up.
So I wonder how much they paid this guy to do this. 300,000, 400,000. This is your criminals at work. I consider this a criminal organization because what they're doing is criminal here. They have a whole study for this. What the fuck did Kelsey get? That's your pay. Instead, they go to the whole goddamn bullshit here. It's just unbelievable that we are subjected to these people running our lives. And look at what they're doing. It's obscene what they're doing.
On the 50-50 split, it was about 28% below the market average. And the next methodology, 90-10, it was pretty close, but it was still below market by about 2%. Mm-hmm. Now, when we look at the pay mix, the different components, like I mentioned before,
what the hell are you talking about?
Salary on the 50-50 split was about 11% below the market average, and on the 90-10
market average, the market,
approximately 13% above. So,
wouldn't you like to be you make your own market? The market. These executive scum make their own market. Then they say it's the market. It's such a scam.
A little bit below and a little bit above the market average.
What are you talking about? Get the shit over with. How much you giving the fucking guy? How much you stealing from the taxpayers?
Interesting to note that Trimet does not offer any incentive compensation. That's pretty consistent with the way the market.
Stop using that word.
Incentives or bonuses. It's not real prevalent, but
this is not a profit make. There is no market. Okay, people need to understand this. This is all lies. They're not selling a product. This is goddamn socialism here. It's taxes are paying for these people's pay. There's no market. It's a lie. It's a fraud. It's a fake.
The 50-50 split, it tends to be, there tends to be some organizations that do provide incentives, but it's not real prevalent. When we looked at one of the benefit offerings, the health and dental, medical, things of that nature, you're positioned about 12% above market. So we have kind of a theme going on here where you're a little bit above or a little bit below the respective markets. But the one significant difference is whether we look at 50-50 or the 90-10 split, you're under market by a significant amount, 21% and 38%. So remember, that's looking at tier 3 retirement benefits. So respectively, they're both pretty low. So overall, what we found is really in the absence of the tier 1 retirement benefits and the lack of incentive compensation, we believe it would be a recommendation to adjust the current salary range midpoint upwards. And
Of course.
overall, this will improve your ability, since you're going through this process of trying to find a new GM. It will improve the ability to position a total compensation package in a more competitive position and be consistent with your...
Because all of these goddamn general managers are so fucking talented that they deserve $500,000 a year. Sure, they're not CEOs of a goddamn company making $50 million. But can't the scam ever end where you have elites just rewarding themselves endlessly while everybody else is in the ditch? Does this ever end? No, it doesn't ever end. It will never end. We're going to be stuck with this probably forever. And they're going to kill us. They're going to kill us, okay? Whoever they hire is going to get a nice big fat check. And you people are still going to be left in the ditch. And they'll still be cutting the people doing the work salaries.
compensation philosophy.
You know, I want to point out here that while these motherfuckers keep getting more and more money, I mean, they keep raising their salaries over and over and over. You get nothing, you bus drivers. You get 3% cost of living, 2% next year. And this guy, they're going to change his salary. They're going to go up like 10% over what Kelsey got. And Kelsey got like $380,000. They're going to go, let's see how high they go here for this.
So those were the findings that from the salary survey or the total compensation survey. And that's the end of the report, but I certainly welcome any questions that you have.
That's how they do. You'll see.
Okay, I don't hear any questions from the board. This information will be used to, as I understand it, prepare a resolution for the board next month related to the compensation of the next general manager.
Okay, I'll turn it back over to the
Thank you. President Warner, if I might, I don't have a question at this time, but I simply wanted to extend a thank you to our partner consultant for this report, for this information. You know, it's useful to have outside parties and external visibility on the decision.
No, it's not useful. Anybody could have done this study. All you need to do is call up Sound Transit, call up King County Metro, call up Muni, call up BART, call up LA and ask how much is your guy getting. Shit, Kelsey's salary's not enough. What the hell do you think you're doing?
We're about to make. So thanks for the sanity check, frankly. Appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Cheer them on. Cheer on the useless bureaucracy. That's what you do.
I just want to piggyback. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Director Bauman. Director Gonzalez wrote a great thought. I just want to also thank you for the transparency. You know, as a public agency, we are having public discussions around compensation, pay, and I think it is important for the public to know how the board will ultimately reach our decision next month of compensation for our next general manager. So just wanted to put that on record, and thank you, Greg, for the presentation. It was helpful as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to give the other members of the search committee an opportunity to add anything that I haven't covered in the report.
So notice how they didn't tell you. They somehow avoided to tell us what they wanted to pay the guy. After all that goddamn wasted nonsense with this guy, Greg McNutt, they didn't even tell us what they're going to offer the new gentleman. I bet you it's $500,000. I think Kelsey was getting $389,000. I mean, every one of these motherfuckers, their salaries keep going up exponentially while everybody else's go down. It's a criminal enterprise, folks. That's what it is.
I thought your report was complete, and I don't have anything to add.
I thank you very much for the report, Director Bauman. I appreciate your leadership on the committee, and you know, the only thing I could think to add is how how much I personally witnessed the commitment to getting community input through this process. And I really appreciate all of those from the community that have provided their input, including members from the Getting There Together Coalition, on the formation of the committee members, on the general manager's roles and responsibilities. And I really encourage the leaders of those organizations to make sure that we're all fully up to speed on the relationships and the points of connections that that have been established and that are being established through our committee structures and through the community engagement that we continue to do. I think what we all agree to is that having community input is important, and having a regular, consistent relationship with key constituents in the community is very important for the agency to do its work. So I just encourage that we build on that and that everybody get on up to speed on sort of what work has taken place. And thank you to everyone who really considers this an important thing to do.
Yep, well said. That's the report on the GM search.
Great, lovely. That didn't give us any information, by the way, other than you're going to give the guy a whole bunch of money.
So has Bruce lost his connection to the meeting?
No, I'm here. I just didn't push my unmute button. So I just want to say thank you to the committee also, and also want to acknowledge Milliman and the work of staff, because what I think we saw was that our compensation plan is pretty close to where we want to be in the market. So we will do some minor adjustments and look forward to doing what we need to do in June to secure the services of a new general manager. So again, thank you to the committee. You folks have really been spending a lot of time, and I bet you spent many hours in the last few weeks on the GM recruitment. So again, it's greatly appreciated. With that, I'm going to move on to the general manager's report.
All right, let's
Mr.
get through this.
Dessou, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir. Good morning,
We
President.
should have all kinds of stuff in this. This should be good, okay? Where are we on time here? I might want to wait till tomorrow for this. Yes, let's wait for tomorrow for that, because that's going to be good, or it should be. There's all kinds of shit that happened in this last month. So over and out for now. Oh, wait, before we go over and out.